Hi, I'm Eliav from lunar.dev, and in this video I'm going to walk through some simple ways to use policies YAML, the configuration files that sits right in the heart of Lunar Proxy. Policies YAML allows users to define remedy and diagnosis policies in order to solve and diagnose their actual API consumption issues and problems. While a deeper drill down is available over on docs.lunar.dev, I will present several main areas of policies YAML, demonstrating both remedy plugins and diagnosis plugins. So let's start. Let's take a look at how would a full policies YAML file might look like. It might look like something like this. Going to our policies YAML, I'm going to paste this in here, and we can see that it includes one global diagnosis policy, which goes here. And it defines that it should export its results to a file. We can see the exporter section here. It also includes one endpoint-specific policy applying strategy-based throttling to a specific HTTP bin endpoint. Once a modification is made to policies YAML, we can tell Lunar Proxy to apply these changes by using the apply_policies command. So let's run it. And we can see that we get some sort of response from Lunar Proxy that the policies were successfully applied from policies YAML. So the next thing we will want to do is to actually make sure that the policy which we've just crafted and applied actually does what we wanted it to do. In order to test that, I will use curl as a very simple way to issue calls to Lunar Proxy, which are eventually directed at our HTTP bin mock provider. I'm telling Lunar Proxy that the final destination for this call is HTTP bin by adding the host header. And I'm actually issuing the call to localhost at port 8000, which is actually where Lunar Proxy Docker container is accepting connections. And the endpoint I'm going to use is status/200. This is an HTTP bin mock endpoint, which allows us to get whatever status code we want back. So in this case, I'm asking for 200 back. I can ask for any valid status code as well, and I'll get that in return. So once I issue this call, I can see that I'm actually getting a 200 back, which is fantastic. And I can also make sure that this did pass through Lunar by verifying the xlunar sequence ID header, which is present here. This header is used for sequencing. So once we did this, we can actually use Lunar's diagnose tool in order to make sure that the HER log is actually written to file. So I'm running the diagnose upon the first record, and I'm piping this via JQ, which is a very nice formatter for JSON that I highly recommend, and it makes reading JSONs much easier on terminals. Once I do this, I can see the full HER log from our single call, which is fantastic. I can see that the status code 200 is here, and all the rest of the information that is interesting as far as HER standards go for. So I'm going to place this just above exporters and underneath global. And as you can see, I'm telling policies YAML that there is a policy defined for the endpoint HTTP bin/status/200 upon get calls of method get. And the remedies to apply, which is a list, just like the diagnosis was a list, an array of diagnosis policies, remedies is also an array, and we only have one in this case. So we're asking for strategy-based throttling remedy, which allows 2 requests per 60 seconds, and upon any excessive calls we wish to short circuit with the 429 response status code. Fantastic. As we've seen before, any change to policies YAML should be applied. So I'll clean the screen here, and I'll run the apply policies command. I'm getting the signal back from Lunar Proxy that this was successfully applied, which is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to shoot a first call, which is going to make the call to the endpoint which we defined, which is /status/200. And I'm getting a 200 back, which is great. And I'm going to repeat that call a second time. And I'm getting another 200. That makes sense to me. The third one I'm going to make upon the same endpoint. And at this time, I'm getting too many requests. As you can see here, I'm getting a 429. And that's going to be it. So thank you.